Hello everybody, I have returned once again. I feel kind of compelled to make this video. I normally probably wouldn't, but I felt that both because of what the episode contained and some of the reactions I've seen to it, I need to address this. Talking specifically about Dragon Ball Super Episode 84. And what I've seen and what I liked about it and so on. Now, I want to go on the record, excuse me, that I loved this episode. Loved it to death. It was incredible. It was once again payoff to some very good build up. Um, it everything that happened within the episode itself contextually makes perfect sense. But that's why I want to talk about the reaction to it more than anything. See, I've seen a few complaints, and honestly, I don't think they hold up. I really don't. Uh, Specifically speaking, I've seen a lot of people try to talk about power scaling being an issue. It's not. I've seen a lot of people try to talk about the episode forgetting things that happened literally 2 episodes ago. It didn't, and I just want to address that. First and foremost, the fight with Gohan and Krillin. I see a lot of people say that that should not have gone down the way it did, because there's no way that Gohan wouldn't have been able to tell where Krillin was because he did it when fighting Lavender only a few episodes ago. Now, here's the problem with that. When Goku fought Lavender, yes, he was blinded by poison that was spreading through his body. Yes, it was an obstacle he had to overcome. Here's the difference. That fight was a fight that was a straight up, combative tournament. Lavender, after using his poison, wasn't particularly tactical. He just figured he'd have an easy enough time going in there and straight beating on him. Which is why Gohan, when he was able to focus, was able to hear where he was and fight back. When it came to the Solar Flare times 100, the 100 times Taioken, it's not quite the same thing. In that, depending on who you talk to, some people are choosing to interpret the attack as having been responsible for him being unable to sense Krillin's ki. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I think, honestly, he just kind of dropped it down really low after doing that attack. Another reason that he may not have been able to sense it is because the Taioken does take ki and convert it into light, and the fact that it appears to have stayed up in the sky and Krillin dropped down means it may be similar to the artificial moon Vegeta created, in that he can kind of throw it up there and it stays up there. Now, it doesn't stay up near as long, granted, but, so I'm thinking it's like something similar to that. And that would be a big old key signature sitting up there that would be interfering with you detecting where he moved to, if he's moving at all. But at the same time, it should have his key signature, so maybe that's not it. I'm not sure. Like I said, I think he just kind of, dropped it really low and used it to mask his presence, similar to when he was fighting Goku. What that then results in is when he does move, he moves once. First thing he does, dive in there, kick Gohan's leg out from under him, keeps him off balance. Then, kick to the face, kick to the back of the head, which has him staggering, then uses his shoulder and his momentum to shove Gohan and knock him out of the ring. This does not equate to him straight up beating Gohan in a one-on-one no-holds-bar match. It's what he meant when he said, do you really understand what this kind of match means? Because a lot of people I saw interpreted that as, he doesn't seriously think Gohan's going to kill him, does he? No. What he's doing is basically trying to, get people to understand that, and by extension, the audience. That's one thing I want to talk about this episode. It's actually kind of meta. That this isn't a tournament where straight up power is going to matter. This episode alone explained why Goten and Trunks aren't coming and why Roshi is. Because it's not just about power, it's about strategy, tactics. Master Roshi has a lot of experience and can utilize that quite well. The boys, not so much. They're straight up power up, rush in there, be flashy. That's not going to help them in this tournament. If it was a normal one, it certainly would, but this is not a normal one. I don't quite understand why people seem to be so upset by the outcome of that match, though. Again, if he had kept fighting Gohan, Gohan probably would have been able to compensate and tell where he was and still keep fighting him despite being blinded. But he didn't try to. He blinded him and then strategically took advantage of that and knocked him out of the boundaries of their little makeshift arena. Which, I mean, they even talk about it afterwards, and the whole reason that Gohan feels bad is he did lose sight of what the tournament was about. He was way too fixated on power, physical strength, and I mean, there's no doubting Krillin's gotten stronger. I'm not even going to doubt that for 2 seconds, which is evident in the fight with Goku. But, he was so fixated on power that he had actually begun to doubt the worth, the value of one of his oldest friends and a man who basically helped raise him, and it was the fact that it just, even though he was the one who was tasked with coming up with a plan, he had been planning this around whether or not Krillin would be strong enough to do anything, and he had completely forgotten, his tactical ability, his skill. And he felt foolish for it, but he also felt bad that he had so strongly doubted someone who he should have known, was more than just his physical strength. Then cut to the fight with Goku. Now, this is where people want to complain about power scaling, and I don't understand that. Because, again, number one, we saw in episode 76 how Krillin was able to overcome several mental blocks to, his aura had completely changed. His everything changed. His demeanor changed. And we also know that he has been training and even sparring with Goku on occasion, during the last several months. And it's something that I think people forget when they go into this. They seem to think that, like, he's barely been training again now, or just started, or like no time has gone by and he's able to do this. No, time has gone by, and it also does appear that whatever happened in that forest did indeed make him stronger. Not like super stronger, but it certainly enabled him to become stronger. When he fights Goku, though, again, the entire focus of his technique is to, try to push Goku out of the arena. Because that's the rules that they're combating under. And he almost does it, and he does it quite well. What's interesting to me is exactly how he does it, and the fact that it does almost work as well as it does. Because Goku, in a one-on-one fight, Goku is no tactical slouch on the battlefield. And so the fact that Krillin was actually able to dang near outmaneuver him multiple times. He got him off balance and dodging with those Kienzans flying around. He faked him out, made him think he was going to do the Taioken, and then just laid right into him. Used the momentum to push him up and away, and then when, he landed, he brought those Kienzans back in, which, by the way, is another interesting new technique. He can throw multiple Kienzans guide those things, and then have them just sitting there waiting, and then bring them back into the battle. That is actually incredible. And if this was a tournament where lethality were a thing, he'd be a lot more deadly now too. Um, but he had Goku dodging, actually managed to nick his cheek a little bit. And when Goku then destroyed those, he flew right in there, smacked him hard, sent him flying back, and then, pummeled him with just a straight up, ki blast, trying to keep the momentum going and shove him right off. And it almost worked. He had to go Super Saiyan just to be able to dispel that and get his footing back. So yeah, he's gotten a bit stronger. And I do know too that people want to complain about the fact that he was even able to push back against that Kamehameha when Goku was Super Saiyan Blue. If you notice though, he barely did. He only pushed it back to where it was when they started. And then Goku only had to apply a little bit more power, and it was pretty heavily overwhelming. So no, I don't think, it's very clear Goku wasn't anywhere near close to going all out in that form. I don't know why people are trying to make a big stink about that one. I do know, though, that they are making a big stink about 18 kicking away that Kamehameha. Now, here's the funny thing. People seem to be perfectly fine with, like, Tien managing to blast away a shot from Boo. But the idea of 18, who was significantly stronger, knocking away a blast that, again, isn't even Goku going all out in that form, that's somehow going too far. I don't understand that complaint. And even so, it looks pretty clear to me that she actually kicked his hands and not the blast itself. If she had kicked the blast itself, wouldn't she have, kicked closer to the focal point of it? But no, she literally went over there and kicked Goku's hands out of the way, which sent the thing flying. And then went over to help her husband. But that is, not a power scaling issue at all. She simply went over there and hit his hands out of the way. Which, if he didn't see it coming and couldn't compensate for it, wouldn't be a big deal. But that's the interesting thing. You see how naturally those two work together, and okay, I'm gonna try to spare you from, like, the whole gushing about ships thing, but it is nice to see how, cohesive those two are as a couple, and how loving she is toward him. He's sitting there shaking and trembling, both from exertion and just the fear of being on the other end of that. And, she actually goes over there to help him. She's holding him. She's holding his hand. She's, reassuring him without being, the bitch that people declared her to be, quoting some people, after 75. Like, oh, golly gee, it's almost like that really was just an attempt to kind of shock him into motivation. Tough love. Like, I don't know why people think that this woman is this cold, unfeeling ice queen. She's kind of been knocking holes in that for quite a while now. But, seeing how cohesive they were as a family unit, and then seeing, how they worked as a team, and they were just instantly in sync. Krillin had even, been thinking about how they might actually, fight together as a team, if things came to it. He's got a surprisingly tactical mind that I think a lot of people take for granted. They were ready to not only throw down with Goku, but let him bring in Gohan. And that is something I think that, well, it's not even necessarily something I have to think. You see it. Goku realized something. Goku has always been in one-on-one fights. Always. Or it'll just be him versus multiple people. He has never really been in a situation outside of, like, movies where he's had to actually work as a team. Like even when he did, have to set aside some pride and fuse with Vegeta, and Vegeta had to do the same, they were one person. So, the idea of actually having to fight together with multiple people, against multiple people, in a scenario where it's not just about overpowering your opponent, and you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times, and you have to, you know, strategize and compensate accordingly. Um, he said if I had gone into the tournament, the way I was before you guys showed me this or made me think of this, I'm actually afraid to think what would have happened. I probably would have been knocked out right away. It's and he might have, and that would be disastrous because it's like 18 said that sometimes there are just gaps of power that really you can't do anything against. You can do your best, but sometimes you need help. And what would happen if Goku, who would massively even the odds, was taken out right away? Well, then everything's going to fall on Vegeta, and Vegeta's not necessarily a team player either. But, it's like they'd be seriously down against any universe that had a significantly stronger opponent. So, that they inadvertently here kind of sort of helped potentially save the universe. And actually taught Goku a few things. And I kind of think that they might have taught the fandom a few things. This seems to directly address a lot of, fandom conceptions about how Krillin's weak and, can't win, about how, all these fights are all about strength. It almost directly seemed to address fans complaining about Roshi being invited and Tien being invited and Krillin being invited, but Goten and Trunks weren't. And well, this kind of explains why. Um, it kind of explained that characters are worth more than just their raw strength. It kind of showed, the tactical side of things. And how important it is not only to fight tactically and fight smart. I mean, Krillin did as well as he did against Goku after having used the technique that 18 very specifically said takes a lot of energy to do. It's not something that he can keep doing again and again and again and again. At least not yet. But it's pretty significant, I think. That we see that not only is he not some kind of complete weakling, like a lot of people like to think, but he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. I think it's interesting because this once again showed that Goku isn't as stupid as people want to think. I mean, he picked up on that without it having to be completely explained to him. I mean, there was some tossed out there, but he was able to, understand this and then apply it to himself and realize, holy crap, I almost made a huge universe-ending mistake here. He can be taught, contrary to popular belief. But this notion that I'm seeing in a lot of people, is that Krillin shouldn't be able to do this. That's what they're angry about. That this somehow is ignoring things in Dragon Ball Z, and it's propping him up when he doesn't deserve it, while characters like Piccolo and Tien are always training and never stopped, and therefore, they should be the ones getting. Okay, first of all, I want to say this. This notion that, Tien is constantly non-stop 24/7 training is bunk. Okay? The guy kept training, yes. Thing is, I'm pretty sure Krillin at least kept up some marginal training, if only for his job. He'd need some. You can't get completely rusty here. A good chunk of his problems seen in those two episodes stemmed not from inherent weakness, it stemmed from mental blockage. Just his own mentality was his fear, his sense of self-worth were his biggest obstacles there. It's literally the theme of that 2 episode arc. But the notion that Tien, constantly trained 24/7 is bunk. The man does run a farm. He runs a farm, which is long, hard work. And while that would technically be physical labor, which I suppose people could kind of constitute as training, even Goku has shown, working on his farm, that that's not sufficient. It's why he needed to keep going out there and trying to find people to spar with. It's why he, on break would take time to do proper training. Because it is, again, long, hard work, and while it does at least, give you a bit of a workout, though less so in their case, it's not training. So, Tien does train, but not constantly, okay? I want to be clear right there. I've already gone over this topic about, why Tien isn't inherently stronger than Krillin because of X, Y, and Z. I can link that video, I suppose, if people really want to see it. But that's not what this is about. This notion, though, that somehow, these characters are non-stop training. Piccolo does train a lot too, I'll give you that, but he does a lot of meditation, mental training, and fortitude. Which, given his nature, is not surprising. But this notion that Krillin somehow doesn't deserve this, or that it's insulting to other characters that he managed to beat them or surpass them. That kind of mentality is some of the stupidest, most toxic stuff I have ever seen come out of this fandom. Like, why were you so down on him for so long then if you thought that he could never, get above that? If you thought that he could never be this or that? If you thought that it was stupid for him to keep trying because he shouldn't be able to surpass these people, then why were you bagging on him when he, back when he decided to give that up? Why would you bag on him for that? According to you, he took the logical decision. But no, y'all still bagged on him. And now you're bagging on him again because he decided to pick himself up off the floor and work. He got his motivation back. And that is actually angering some people in the fandom. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand that. I mean, this, on some level, is arguably worse than the whole, this is all Goku's fault thing, which is also stupid because it's been openly stated in the show multiple times that, again, these universes were all going to be destroyed anyway. This actually gave at least one of them a fighting chance, and specifically gave them a chance to potentially undo it. So this notion that somehow this is all, Goku's fault, yeah, that's stupid. But this is, that at least has something to it. I can understand where that misconception initially would come from. This, I cannot understand at all. This is literally being mad that someone is bettering themselves. This is literally being mad that a family unit isn't, dysfunctional. This is literally being mad that his wife doesn't look down on him like some kind of weak, insignificant being. That she actually cares about him, that she's actually affectionate toward him. I am seeing this stuff, and I cannot, under any circumstances, understand why y'all are like this. I can think of a few reasons potentially why. None of them good, all of them unhealthy. Y'all really need to do some self-searching here. Because this is getting ridiculous, man. Straight ridiculous. At any rate, that more or less concludes my thoughts about the episode. I really love this episode. It's once again right up there with my favorites. I love how, contrary to popular belief, they didn't forget those two episodes. They're not filler that doesn't apply to the main arc. which, given the fact that stuff like that tends to be skipped by the manga, I'm gonna find it interesting how Toyotaro's gonna explain any of this. I mean, heck, he probably won't. I mean, the guy's been making his manga basically the Goku and Vegeta show ever since he started doing it. So, but yeah, that'll do it for now. I think. Love the episode. Love how it played on, things that have already happened. Love how it's payoff to build up, and also significant build up for what's coming. And next week we're gonna see 17 again, and that'll be interesting, both to see him again and see what happens when he and Goku meet face to face for the first time. Uh, so can't wait for that, and I will catch all you guys later. See ya.